To M. and Pran Krishna, many people talk of Brahm Gyan, but their minds are always preoccupied with lower things: house, buildings, money, name, and sense pleasures. As long as you stand at the foot of the monument, so long do you see horses, carriages, Englishmen and Englishwomen. But when you climb to its top, you behold the sky and the ocean stretching to infinity. Then you do not enjoy buildings, carriages, horses or men. They look like ants. All such things as attachment to the world and enthusiasm for women and gold disappear after the attainment of the knowledge of Brahman. Then comes the cessation of all passions. When the log burns, it makes a crackling noise and one sees the flame. But when the burning is over and only ash remains, then no more noise is heard. Thirst disappears with the destruction of attachment. Finally comes peace. The nearer you come to God, the more you feel peace. Peace, 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 supreme peace. The nearer you come to the Ganges, the more you feel its coolness. You will feel completely soothed when you plunged into the river. But the universe and its created beings and the 24 cosmic principles all exist because God exists. Nothing remains if God is eliminated. The number increases if you put many zeros after the figure 1, but the zeros don't have any value if the 1 is not there. The Master continued, there are some who come down as it were after attaining the knowledge of Brahman after Samadhi and retain the ego of knowledge or the ego of devotion, just as there are people who of their own sweet will stay in the marketplace after the market breaks up. This was the case with sages like Narad. They kept the ego of devotion for the purpose of teaching men. Shankaracharya kept the ego of knowledge for the same purpose. God cannot be realized if there is the slightest attachment to the things of the world. A thread cannot pass through the eye of a needle if the tiniest fiber sticks out. The anger and lust of a man who has realized God are only appearances. They are like a burnt string. It looks like a string, but a mere puff blows it away. God is realized as soon as the mind becomes free from attachment. Whatever appears in the pure mind is the voice of God. That which is pure mind is also pure buddhi. That again is pure Atma, because there is nothing pure but God. But in order to realize God, one must go beyond dharma and adharma. The Master sang in his melodious voice, come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the 4 fruits of life. Sri Ramakrishna went out on the southeast veranda of his room and sat down. Pran Krishna and the other devotees accompanied him. Hazra too was sitting there. The Master said to Pran Krishna with a smile, Hazra is not a man to be trifled with. If one finds the big dargah here, then Hazra is the smaller dargah. All laughed at the Master's words. A certain gentleman, Nav Kumar by name, came to the door and stood there. At sight of the devotees, he immediately left. Oh, egotism incarnate, Sri Ramakrishna remarked. About 9:30 in the morning, Pran Krishna took leave of the Master. Soon afterwards, a minstrel sang some devotional songs to the accompaniment of a stringed instrument. The Master was listening to the songs when Kedar Chatterjee, a householder devotee, entered the room clad in his office clothes. He was a man of devotional temperament and cherished the attitude of the gopis of Vrindavan. Words about God would make him weep. The sight of Kedar awakened in the Master's mind the episode of Vrindavan in Sri Krishna's life. Intoxicated with divine love, the Master stood up and sang, addressing Kedar, tell me, friend, how far is the grove where Krishna, my beloved, dwells? His fragrance reaches me even here, but I am tired and can walk no farther. Sri Ramakrishna assumed the attitude of Sri Radha to Krishna and went into deep samadhi while singing the song. He stood there still as a picture on canvas, with tears of divine joy running down his cheeks. Kedar knelt before the Master. Touching his feet, he chanted a hymn. We worship the Brahman consciousness in the lotus of the heart, the undifferentiated who is adored by Hari, Hara and Brahma, who is attained by yogis in the depths of their meditation. the scatterer of the fear of birth and death, the essence of knowledge and truth, the primal seed of the world. After a time, the master regained consciousness of the relative world. Soon Kedar took his leave and returned to his office in Calcutta. At midday, Ramlal brought the master a plate of food that had been offered in the Kali temple. Like a child, he ate a little of everything. Later in the afternoon, several Marwari devotees entered the master's room, where Rakhal and M were also seated. A Marwari devotee: "Sir, what is the way?" "Two ways of God realization." Master: "There are two ways. One is the path of discrimination, the other is that of love. Discrimination means to know the distinction between the real and the unreal. God alone is the real and permanent substance. All else is illusory and impermanent. The magician alone is real. His magic is illusory. This is discrimination. Discrimination and renunciation. Discrimination means to know the distinction between the real and the unreal. Renunciation means to have dispassion for the things of the world. One cannot acquire them all of a sudden. They must be practiced every day. One should renounce woman and gold mentally at first. Then by the will of God, one can renounce it both mentally and outwardly. It is impossible to ask the people of Calcutta to renounce all for the sake of God. One has to tell them to renounce mentally. Constant practice urged. Through the discipline of constant practice, one is able to give up attachment to woman and gold. This is what Gita says. By practice, one acquires uncommon power of mind. Then one does not find it difficult to subdue the sense organs and to bring anger, lust, and the like under control. Such a man behaves like a tortoise, which once it has tucked in its limbs, never puts them out. You cannot make the tortoise put its limbs out again, though you chop it to pieces with an axe. Marwari devotee: Revered sir, you just mentioned two paths. What is the other path? Master: the path of bhakti, or zealous love of God. Weep for God in solitude with a restless soul and ask Him to reveal Himself to you. Cry to your mother Shama with a real cry, O mind, and how can she hold herself from you? Marwari devotee: Sir, what is the meaning of the worship of the personal God, and what is the meaning of God without form or attribute? Master: as you recall your father by his photograph, so likewise the worship of the image reveals in a flash the nature of reality. Do you know what God with form is like? Like bubbles rising on an expanse of water, various divine forms are seen to rise out of the great akash of consciousness. The incarnation of God is one of these forms. The primal energy sports, as it were, through the activities of a divine incarnation. What is there in mere scholarship? God can be attained by crying to Him with a longing heart. There is no need to know many things. He who is an acharya has to know different things. One needs a sword and shield to kill others, but to kill oneself, a needle or a nail knife suffices. One ultimately discovers God by trying to know who this I is. Is this I the flesh, the bones, the blood, or the marrow? Is it the mind or the buddhi? Analyzing thus, you realize at last that you are none of these. This is called the process of neti neti, not this, not this. One can neither comprehend nor touch the Atma. It is without qualities or attributes. But according to the path of devotion, God has attributes. To a devotee, Krishna is spirit. His abode is spirit, and everything about him is spirit. The Marwari devotees saluted the master and took their leave. At the approach of evening, Sri Ramakrishna went out to look at the sacred river. The lamp was lighted in his room. The master chanted the hallowed name of the Divine Mother and meditated on her. Then the evening worship began in the various temples. The sound of gongs floating on the air mingled with the murmuring voice of the river. Peace and blessedness reigned everywhere.